What's up, St. Louis? It's your host, Luke Farrell of the STL Bucket List Show. The STL Bucket List Show is driven by Bomarito Automotive Group. Bomarito is Missouri's #1 car dealership with over 20 locations, so I guarantee that there's one in your neighborhood. Since the 1970s, Bomarito has sold over 1 million cars, and John and the entire team made us feel completely comfortable when we picked up our new vehicle recently for the family. So I can't thank the Bomarito team enough for driving this episode forward, and enjoy the show. For 50 years, Bankhead and Firth Orthodontics has been proudly serving the vibrant St. Louis community. As a family-owned and operated practice since day one, the commitment to excellence and personalized care runs deep. They believe in giving back to the wonderful people of St. Louis who have entrusted them with their smiles. Step into the 5 locations across St. Louis with modern offices equipped with the latest orthodontic technology. Their 3 amazing doctors are dedicated to providing top-notch, innovative treatments tailored just for you. Join us in celebrating 50 years with Bankhead and Firth Orthodontics, where your family becomes a part of theirs. Schedule your free consultation today and let them help you achieve the confident, gorgeous smile that you deserve. Because in St. Louis, your smile is your legacy.
If you want to hear about St. Louis, tune in to the Bucket List Show weekly. Hear what Marissa and Luke say. It drops every Wednesday. Got a dope new guest every single week. Buckle up for the ride. Who's it gonna be? Who's on the show today? They rep St. Louis. What to do in the loo on a late night, or maybe what to do on a date night. Yeah, Bucket List has you covered. They know what's going on. What's going on? They'll give you, hey, 18 different things to do, or 19 if you need one more to choose. Yeah, this city is a place we call home. A place we call home, yeah.
What's up, St. Louis? It's your host, Luke Farrell of the STL Bucket List Show. We're back with episode 138 of highlighting the people, places, and events that make St. Louis special. We have a very special episode planned for you today, but before we get into it, I just want to thank each and every one of you for listening every single Wednesday for the last 2+ years. We wouldn't want to keep doing the show if it didn't keep growing. So we appreciate the audience, and we appreciate you guys for showing up every single week to come listen to us. And without our incredible partners over at Four Hands Brewing Company, Bomarito Automotive Group, First Community Credit Union, Birch Tree Recovery, and all the other partners that have made it possible to continue to show up and record this show each and every week, Bankhead and Firth Orthodontics. It's been amazing to work with other local businesses to keep this show running. So I'm going to get right into it. We have a sophisticated episode today with a legend, some say, in this community when it comes to publishing. With Sophisticated Living, we have Craig Kaminer.
Correct.
I got it. I was all nervous, man. I asked Craig 3 times before the show. I don't like to mess people's names up. People always say my name's Farrell, but it's Farrell, and everybody always says it. But it's fine. But I wanted to make sure I got it right. But Craig, I want to start off by, first of all, thank you for coming in. I know you're busy.
Sure.
Publisher of a magazine. But I wanted to kind of throw it back to start us off here with some of your upbringing. Are you a St. Louis resident? Were you born here? Kind of give us a little look at of what landed you in St. Louis and why you love living in the city.
Yeah, I was not born here. I married someone from St. Louis.
Nice.
You've heard that story before.
Yes, I have.
We were only supposed to try this out for 2 years, and
that was her deal when she told you.
I don't know. We came here in 1987 or 1988, so it's been a while, much more than 2 years. And so when I came here, I was the publicist for the Italian government in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I had spent time living in Italy, and, it was a really exciting time. But my wife wanted to move here, so we tried it. And I started at Fleischman Hillard, and then ran Weber Shandwick for almost 10 years. And then opened an agency, sold an agency, opened another agency, sold an agency. And then along the way, I started Sophisticated Living magazine, really as an adjunct to my other business. But at a certain point, I knew running an agency as I was getting older, I was just not really prepared to, manage, big teams of young workers who all wanted to, work directly with me and have me teach them everything. And Honestly, I just decided that that really wasn't my passion. My passion was starting things
Hmm.
and growing things.
Right.
So, the magazine is really all about luxury lifestyle. And, it's something that I've experienced, whether I was living in Italy or living in St. Louis.
Hmm.
And it's something that I feel I can do very well and provide for the St. Louis community. And at the same time, very few people can do exactly that. So
Exactly.
it's been a great run.
So you say you like to start things. Is that your favorite part about so like you like the startup, phase of businesses when you're branding, you're coming up with ideology around the name, you're like, how do we get this to market? Like something about the first sale or the first advertiser or the first client or whatever it is just there's something special about that. Once you have hundreds of clients, you're like, oh my gosh, now it's a job. So when you started Sophisticated Living, like walk me through, you had the agency at the time when you started it. So you were looking as like, was this a creative outlet for you or was it just another thing to another job to add to your plate?
So we're in 8 cities.
Mhm.
We weren't at that point, but we are now. And the guy who started it, he's a professional photographer, and his wife is a writer. They're no longer married, but
Mhm.
and so they approached me and they said, the people that do the best starting these magazines in cities have an agency, they have employees, they have space, they have all the things that you
Connections and
need.
staff. Yeah.
And, it's something that you could bolt on to your other work,
Mhm.
and I'm sure it would do very well. And, honestly, it requires a great deal of time and energy, and it worked great. But, for many years, it wasn't, successful, and financially independent. It was very dependent on the revenues of the agency. So
Mhm.
when I sold the agency, I really focused on, making sure that it was really successful on its own.
Yeah.
And honestly, when COVID happened, I thought we were dead.
Of course.
And, I called all the clients. I said, "Oh, no, what are you gonna do with COVID?" And they said, "Our business is great."
Mhm.
Why? Affluent people were stuck at home looking at their living room and say, "Let's redo our living room,"
Of course.
or "Let's buy this, new thing."
Mhm.
And so COVID, our business actually jumped.
Mhm.
While unfortunately for many others, their business went down and many went out of business. So, part of our success is, I think, doing what we do really well.
Mhm.
But it's also the fact that some other, organizations, other
Mhm.
magazines, news media, all media really went down.
Yeah.
And so, it's hard to believe, but some ways it feels like we're the last guy standing
Yeah.
in the print world.
I have a very similar story to that. I think that we started in 2019, and during that 2020, digital was a huge part, and we were already doing it. So we saw our biggest jump in digital. So I do think that, like, it's a big thing about doing what you do and doing it great, but then it's also, there's always a little luck involved in some of these journeys on what happens. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. But I think you guys do a great job. I mean, I've got your email for years and been able to just see what you guys showcase. And you mentioned before this, it's like aspirational for a younger person that wants stuff like that in their life. As we're building our business, it's like, oh, you know, look at some of these homes or look at, the charters and all these different things that you guys do. So walk us through some of those early stages. So you were working you own the agency, but you were also doing this. What was some of the challenges of going to actually have your own magazine? Because you used to be in PR, you were pitching to all these magazines, weren't you?
Right.
So now
Yeah,
you're on
and
the other edge.
it
Yeah.
was, I started on the other side,
Yeah.
as a publicist, I was pitching these stories, and now we just get pitched these stories. but it's easy for us to figure out which are the good ones, which are the good ones for our audience.
Yeah.
It's honestly much simpler, the PR business. It was clients who all wanted you to guarantee that they were going to get coverage in certain ways, and we got coverage for them, and most of the time exceeded their expectations. But now it's just, if we decide to write it, it comes out in print. There is no question of whether it will or it won't.
Yeah.
So it's a much simpler business, and I think it's kind of fun to be in a business in an industry that in many ways is downturning, but in fact our business is upturning.
Yeah.
And so we feel very lucky. I don't know what life is going to be like in 10 or 20 years,
Right.
but we just live every day
You have to.
for the fight,
Exactly.
and uh, it's really enjoyable to do luxury lifestyle things because the places we go and the places we write about are really the best of everything. So
Mhm.
it's fun to be surrounded by the best of everything.
It really is, and I liked your motto there with, like, "You live every day," and there's something special about the connection with all this AI and with all this internet stuff and with all this, like, crazy tech. There's something special about reading in an article or feeling something physical, and you guys get to put that out every other month, and I think it's super special. But, you mentioned something else, with, working with small teams, working with that, and getting to go to these places. So before you got into the sophisticated living, were you a customer of something like that? Were you getting magazines like this, or did you have an interest in that lifestyle even before, obviously, sophisticated living?
Yeah, I mean, I was always interested in, luxury travel, luxury goods, luxury cars, all those things.
Mhm.
And, which really helped in the transition to the magazine because, many of the people who are advertisers, um, they knew me as a customer.
Okay.
And so when I went to them and I said, "Hey, how would you like to be a part of this magazine that I'm doing?" It's much easier to sell to someone
That you already
that
purchased
I
from or
just
you
bought
have a
something.
relationship with
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
And so, yeah, so it's a great fun thing, but I think I mentioned to you, it's not something that everyone could do, right?
Mhm.
So if you haven't been part of that world, just jumping into it, the people who live in that world could easily tell whether you're part of it or not part of it.
Right.
Now, that's not to say that the people that we deal with and write about, I mean, some are celebrities, some are literally billionaires, and I'm not.
Mhm. Yeah.
For the record, I am not. But my kids went to private schools with their kids, and I've traveled extensively, and I lived in Italy, and
Mhm.
I speak Italian, and, just things that and when I sold my agency, I took off for 4.5 years and sailed around, not the world, but mainly the country,
Yeah.
12,000 miles. So,
Wow.
I've had life experiences uh, that turn into great stories
Yeah.
and that attracts advertisers who want to be part of this entire story that we're telling
Mhm.
every year.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that that's a great point because, like you said, it's just you're talking to a certain type of customer and you have to cue in on that. So it's cool that you are a part of that as well. And like you said, I didn't even know that you sailed around. That's crazy. So that was like your mini retirement, and then you got back to it.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I
How
thought
old?
I called it my pretirement,
Yeah.
and I got the sense that I had to get back on land. My wife and I said, "There's something that is amiss," and sure enough, we came back on land, and both of our fathers passed away, and our kids were in different cities, and there were just things that we had to do
Mm-hmm.
to be with our moms, and
Mm-hmm. And see your kids grow up and
yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, and so for some reason it just worked. I mean, I don't know what we would have done if we were out in the middle of the ocean when all that stuff happened. So
Yeah.
sometimes, you get lucky.
You're no, absolutely right. So before we get into some of the event that you have coming up, I want to talk about St. Louis because, like you said, it was never in your plan to live in this city. You had bigger goals, New York, and all these different things. So tell us what the city of St. Louis has meant to you, and you've been here since the '80s now. It's like how has this community rallied around you in different ways, and especially now with the magazine?
Yeah, so I wasn't sure what it would be like moving here. I was, a New York City publicist, and um, it's a lot of hard work. To some people, it probably seems very glamorous, but it was really cool.
Hmm.
And moving here, uh, I worked with great firms. I worked with Fleishman and Hillard, and then I was running Weber Shandwick. So there was a lot of great things that happened, but then life happens, right?
Hmm.
So we had a couple of kids, and St. Louis is a great place to have a family, and the thought of moving back to New York City just seemed terrible. And before you know it, 35 years pass, and you're hanging out in St. Louis. And over the years, because of the work that I do, I've met a lot of great people, whether they're the politicians, the business owners, the CEOs,
Hmm.
athletes, you name it.
Right.
So, uh, it's something that I'm not so sure I would have had if I lived in New York.
Hmm.
It's, my mother-in-law always reminds me that you could be a big fish in a little pond. And I think that that was true.
Yeah.
And now when I think back, it's like, my kids are gone. They live in Austin and Nashville, and
Nice.
they're living their
Two up and coming
lives.
cities for
Yeah.
young for young.
But the thought of moving back to New York City, there's a part of me that thinks, well, that could be fun, but I don't think that's what I'll ever do. And I
Mhm.
just decided to really invest in St. Louis. The magazine, everyone's tired of hearing the negative stories. And
I agree.
since I really came from a publicist background, my job was always telling the positive stories. And so the magazine, Sophisticated Living, is really about the lifestyle of St. Louis and the positive lifestyle, whether it's beautiful homes or vacations or
Mhm.
uh, the best restaurants or whatever it is. We just focus on what we think is the best of everything.
Mhm. Yeah, that's amazing. You said 2 things in there I really liked. The one was the what your mother-in-law mentioned about, if you were in New York trying to do the same thing, and I think we have that same struggle as like, "Oh, we would be a lot more successful in another city," but then I look at those cities and there's 500 people doing the exact same thing, and in St. Louis, when it comes to social media, there's really only a couple here doing it. So then you could kinda see that market. But then also it's the connections and it's the city, how the city rallies around people and supports people that live here and invest here. And everybody's really kind about it too. I mean, other cities like New York might be a lot more competitive, or Chicago, or any of these other places, especially in our world. But and then you mentioned something else about just like building the relationships with people, and you end up finding yourself here, and like you said, raising a family that definitely changes you. It'd be a lot harder to raise that family in New York City, and
Right.
now you're in the Midwest. Your kids are right, Austin, Nashville. You can drive there, you can fly there. You're right there. So I wanted to talk about your guys' event that's coming up on November 6th at the 21C Hotel. So this is the first time ever that you're doing this. So if you could give us a little background on the event, tell us what made you guys want to do it, and then also what people can expect.
Yeah, two things happen. One is um, the CEO of the Interior Design Center, Kevin Kinney, called me one day and he said, I think you guys could do a great job at supporting the industry, honoring the best of, architecture and interior design and builders. And while there's some other awards, we think you could do it really well for the high end.
Hmm.
The second thing is I went to Florence, Italy, where I met my wife. I've been there many times, but I spent a month there last year, and I was reminded that one family decided that they would invest in art and architecture in the city, and they supported Michelangelo and Da Vinci and all these great artists. And I thought, well, between what Kevin told me about doing an award and being inspired by what one family, the Medici, could do, I said, we've got to do it. We've
Hmm.
got to do it and hopefully it works out
Right.
because it's a big undertaking.
Hmm.
It's, ultimately, I have 2 boys, so, um, this award is gonna be 300 people, so
Hmm.
it's like throwing a wedding,
Exactly.
and, luckily, I don't have any big weddings to throw,
Yeah.
or at least none that I know of,
Right.
but,
It's a
you know,
party.
I
Yeah.
it's a big event,
Yeah.
and it took a lot of work.
I love the backstory on that because, like you said, let's just say this event, you're gonna knock it out of the park. We all know this, but you continue to do it. You continue to do it, and then these people that are in these events, they're working harder to be a part of these things that ultimately benefit our city. You're at one of the most beautiful hotels in all of St. Louis, right there. So it's called the Sophie Awards, which I love the name. Sounds amazing. Obviously, short for sophisticated. So there was some entries. There's 22 awards that are going to be handing out. You have judges. Give us. Obviously, people have been to award shows before, or not award shows, but like they've been to banquets like this before. But what's going to be so special about it with the judges and all the different things that you guys are doing for these local?
Yeah, I mean, we decided that, we were not gonna play it safe and, like, do it just on a low budget,
Hmm.
that we were gonna do it in a way that really fulfilled the promise that I made to Kevin Kinney, that if we do it, we're gonna do it right.
Of course.
And so, we invested in all the things that were needed, whether it was the branding and the marketing of it, to the communications, to this community of people.
Hmm.
We got 10 outside judges, so we are not having local people judge local people. It's some of the best national players judging us,
Hmm.
so that when you win this award, you know that your peers around the country saw it and they thought you were the best. So we're elevating, I think, whatever has been here in the past. And so, and then doing 21C, ironically, and this was just a guess, I thought, I bet you a lot of the people who are going to come to this have never been there, even though it's this great world class hotel and super cool and beautiful.
Hmm.
The designers, from West County and everywhere,
That's true.
maybe haven't even been here. And I continue to hear, I'm so excited to come because I've never been there.
Yeah.
Well, when you step into 21C and you look around, you say, holy cow. I mean, this is conceived of for designers.
Hmm.
And the floor that we're doing it on is like an art museum. And so we thought this this is the place to do it.
Hmm.
So, we announced it. We started to see how many people would enter, and we the final number was 266 entries. There were actually another 6 or 10, but we had to cut it off. And, you know, uh people started buying tickets, and, we thought, well, we hope that we're not just giving out awards, but people show up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a three-course dinner. It's
Yeah.
like open bar. I
Right.
mean, we're investing heavily in this.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, there's only 300 seats in the whole place.
Wow.
At 301, I think the fire marshal will close us down. So we won't go beyond 300, but
Yeah.
so we're gonna sell out. We're literally at 290,
Yeah. Wow.
and we're hoping, to sell out in the next couple of weeks. It may be sooner,
Mm-hmm.
but, we'll find ways to, find people seats if they wanna be there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's
it's
amazing.
it's a really exciting thing. We have a couple of great co-hosts, Susan Sherman, who many people know from the Fashion Fund,
Mm-hmm.
and Andrea Purnell, who works at Slam,
Mm.
and she's very involved in RAC. So they have great chemistry. They are super fun. They will turn this event into, I think, a very funny
Yeah.
event. So,
Yeah.
what will be a 2.5 hour thing will not be slow and boring.
Yeah.
It will be really
Amazing
exciting.
food, three-course, having Susan there, great energy, personality. I haven't met Andrea yet, but, that's gonna be amazing. It's really cool that you made the decision to not host it on your own website and get all the votes and pick winners, and a lot of times you see these awards, especially locally here, it seems like they can be bought, some of these awards, and that loses it when you get people that they're just winning it just because they're sponsoring more or whatever like that. So I think it's really cool. So you were able to get these outside judges. So are those judges reviewing submissions now and then they already are picking the winners? How is that working? Are they going to be there that night?
Everything is computerized, so,
Yeah.
people submitted their entries,
Yep.
uh, with a certain number of photos, and then the judges get assigned these different, award entries, and they go through each and every one
Wow.
and, rate them, on maybe 7 or 8 categories. They give them
Yeah.
best score out of 30, and, the computer system tabulates who the winner is.
Mm-hmm.
So, we didn't touch it. We didn't wanna get,
Involved.
in the
Yeah.
middle of it. And shockingly, when we saw who the winners are, we were amazed because the biggest problem with an award like this is that some people enter, 10, 15 entries.
Mm-hmm.
And so you go to an awards ceremony and the same people are winning the awards. And
Exactly.
it's like, oh, that would be a drag.
Mm.
Shockingly, I think there's one one group, who won 3, one who won 2, and then all the others
Singular winners.
are singular winners.
Wow.
So we got a lot of great diversity, and I think that's in part, the judges who saw the, things. They weren't trying to discriminate and saying, "Oh, they won already,"
Mm-hmm.
something else. They didn't know who
Yeah.
won. So, they were just great judges,
It's
and we're really
amazing.
excited that, I hope some of them come,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know that they
They're from
will.
all over. It's like just to get them to help with this was probably awesome, just to have
Yes.
them a part of it. So you have 22 different awards. You don't have to name them all, but what are some of the ones? Because obviously this is for designers, architects, builders. What are some of those, highlight ones that you're looking forward to seeing the winners of all?
Yeah, I mean, there's, like, the best house design over 3,500 feet, the best house design under
I like that.
3,500 feet,
Hmm.
best bedroom, best kitchen, best bathroom, in the residential
And they're all
area.
submitting their the people, the builders, like, this is my project right here. This is my
Yes.
favorite over 3,500 square feet house. Yeah.
Yes. And, some of the submissions are multiple designers and companies that submitted
They
because
collaborated together.
someone designed it, someone built it, someone, did whatever.
Mhm.
And so they all submit their names.
Yeah.
We're going to have a special award. We're going to give out an award for like a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Love that.
And that person, I think has made a huge contribution to St. Louis, continues to. If I told you who it was, you'd know many of his or her projects. And, it's we're even doing an up and comer, or we call one to watch award. Someone who the younger designers who, it's easy to pick all the super,
Well-known, established
experienced,
people.
well-known people, but we also wanted to honor the people who are newer to the industry
Mhm.
and saying, keep an eye on them. It's kind of like a 30 under 30
Mhm.
type award.
Yeah.
We're honoring 4 different people there. We're
amazing.
doing commercial, so best high rise,
Mhm.
best non high rise, but
Individual
retail
unit or
space,
actual commercial building?
a
It's
building
yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
So, who's built the coolest thing.
Yeah.
And these things are all about encouraging, the people who are there to do great things and change the face of St. Louis.
And honoring them when they usually might just get overlooked in some projects. Yeah.
Right. Don't just
Yeah.
create something that's, run of the mill.
Mhm.
Do things that stand out and stand apart
Yeah.
that, there aren't always enough clients who want that. But as a magazine, we want to salute the people who are doing that.
That's amazing. So you're 30 days out. It's October 7th as of this recording. So, it's coming up. You're 30 days out. What happens after? Are you guys going to publish a whole dedicated piece on this? Is this going to be live on the website? Is this going to live in print? Tell us about how people that the people that aren't in the 300, because you got 10 tickets left. So after this episode, hopefully those tickets will be gone.
Right.
Somebody buys a table, but after that, how are they going to see that?
So we're doing all of those things, right? So I think you guys are going to be there at
Yeah.
the event
Yes.
and be doing
Media
live
coverage.
stories.
Mhm.
I'm sure we're going to have some TV crews and radio crews covering it.
Mhm.
But we're also doing things like we have a documentary filmmaker who's going to be filming the whole thing and cutting this video that will then be sent back to, and we'll put it on YouTube, but
Mhm.
we'll mainly do it as a way to thank our sponsors
Yeah.
and to start laying the groundwork for 2025, right? So, but that evening, we have finished the magazine. It's being laid out right now. It will go to print next week and it will come in to St. Louis, but usually like we immediately start delivering it to the clients but it's mailed to people,
Mhm.
their homes. But we're not going to get it into people's hands before the 6th.
So
So that night, we're going to give the magazine, which will feature the 3 finalists in every category. The finalists will share a page, and each winner will get their own page with their project, a write-up on the significance of the project and why they
Mhm.
were selected.
Wow, that's gonna be a legendary issue.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
So it's
really
a
fun to
big
reach.
issue. It's
Yeah.
136 pages plus covers.
Mhm.
So 142 pages. We've never had 142 pages.
Wow,
And
it's a big
so,
project.
yeah, it's really exciting. So we're going to do everything to keep the ball rolling over the next year.
Mhm.
We also created these amazing awards
Mhm.
that they're all glass and there are 3 different shapes of glass that are very architectural,
Hmm.
and,
So you guys went all in on the awards too.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I
22
mean,
of them things.
oh,
Whew.
yeah, and we designed them, in a very architectural way. We didn't just go out and buy, like, a stock
Yeah,
lucite thing with a star in it
yeah,
or anything like that. We
exactly.
decided to really we wanna stand out on someone's shelf
Hmm.
and something that people will be proud of, and so I'm excited to give those away too.
Yeah. So
We've
what are you gonna be doing that night? Because you got Susan, you got all these people. You just gonna be eating and drinking and chilling, or what?
No, well, I'm as a former publicist, I'm probably happiest behind the
Yeah,
scenes,
of course.
I
Yeah,
could
yeah. You're on camera now, and you're like, oh man, I'm used to be behind the scenes.
yeah, I could do that,
Yeah.
but, I'm gonna get up. I've been told that I have to. I'm gonna get up and tell the story of how this came to be,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna hand it off to, other people. One, to basically thank all the sponsors, and then someone to introduce that lifetime achievement winner.
Mm-hmm.
The lifetime achievement person will say a few things, a few remarks, and then we're going to break for dinner. And then it'll start up right after dinner,
Start reading
and
off the awards.
yeah, we'll start. But we're doing it in a way like it's the Grammys or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, things will flash up on screens. There'll be envelopes. We'll read the winner, and because it's going to be a very tight room,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna people a spotlight will hit the person who wins,
Nice.
and then after the event, they'll come pick up the award. The award is in a beautiful
So they won't
box.
run up on the stage like the Grammys.
No,
Yeah.
because, that's when you get into trouble,
Yeah.
right? People will start saying things and go too long, and
And the night
no
goes.
one wants to be there all night,
Yeah, exactly.
So, we've planned this very carefully
That's
from a
smart.
timing perspective, and, I want people to show their award and take selfies with their friends and do all that, and we have 2, photographers that will be there, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll document it, and we'll feature it in the next issue,
Yeah.
but we want it to be something that, they leave there feeling great about what they did. The real trick, though, is we don't want people who didn't win to feel bummed out.
Mm-hmm.
We want them really to celebrate the people who did, and then
Strive for.
strive for next year. What are they gonna do so that they can win?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want them like, oh, I like showed up, I got dressed up, and then this person won. How can you blend it together? Because there's something beautiful about winning, but there's also something beautiful about losing. And how not necessarily losing. It's like you're in a room with some of the best and most talented people in this industry. And like you said, striving for that. But that sounds like a very special night. I know Natalia's going there, but I'm gonna shoot backup camera so I can come there and see all this happen. And I think that what you guys have created, not only with the magazine, but also willing to do this. There's this quote that I always say on the podcast, and it's, if not us, then who? If not now, then when? Because you didn't have to do this event. You got called to do it. And, you got called by, you said Kevin, and then you were in Italy, and like it was a calling that you're like, hey, I need to do this. And now you're planning it, and you're like, I feel like I'm having a wedding right now, and I'm sure you have calls and emails right now you have to reply to about things that are going on with the event. But once you get there, is this advice that, my father-in-law told me, just step back and just look at all the things that are going on, and everybody's in their spots and everybody's doing all these things. And it's the same thing you do when you're at a wedding. Everybody's looking at you, but if you just step back and you're like, wow, all these people are here off some idea called the Sophie Awards. I love the name, by the way.
Oh,
I love
great.
the short. It sounds elevated, it sounds beautiful. I didn't know if it was an acronym, but then I was like, short for obviously sophisticated.
Yeah.
But I think people will be highlighting. I think that we used to do what was called the Locals Choice, and people would vote on our website. And what we saw is the aftermath of that on social media. those 22 companies are posting about it on their social media, and then your brand's flying all over the place of people that normally might never post about your brand, and now everybody's, like you said, sharing selfies. So the documentary is great. Is that going to be with Once Films? Are they going to be filming that night, or
They're not doing it.
Oh, okay, they're sponsoring.
There's
Yeah,
a
I saw that they were
guy-
one of your sponsors, so I didn't know.
Yeah. They did the video about the Lifetime Achievement Award,
Mhm.
and there's another
Yeah.
documentarian named John Lohr,
Mhm.
who's really from California, but he's living here now, and
Yeah.
kind of approached me on it. We talked about it, and I thought he would be great for this, and so
Yeah.
he's the one doing it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So obviously, tickets on the website. You guys can go get them. For people that aren't going, how can they support? Your magazine. Obviously, go to the website, but can they join an email list? Do they get the issues?
Yeah, if people want to get on the free email distribution, they can go to sophisticatedstlouis.com, and there's a place if you wanted to buy a subscription, you can, but if you just want to get the newsletter or the e-blast, you can go there and sign up for that. If people wanted to come to the event, they go to thesofieawards.com, and you can find out all about it. You can buy tickets. You could pick if you want meat, fish, or vegetarian.
Nice.
It's like it's a whole thing. It's literally like a whole wedding.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But there are no mother-in-laws.
Okay. Yeah,
So
and no
that's
crazy
good.
brides.
Right.
No mother-in-laws, no brides. No, that's crazy. And maybe no drunk uncle, but maybe.
Right.
There might be. There might be. But Craig, I appreciate you for coming on. I want to give a little bit, I want to do a couple little shout outs maybe for a couple things that I like to ask for people that have been in industry is like, what advice would you give to a young publisher, somebody in your shoes that might be in their 20s that are pursuing this world? I mean, is there any specific advice that you would give to somebody in your shoes?
Well, as you can imagine, I get every friend's kids coming to me and say, I was told that I should come speak to you, and what do you recommend? They're in J school, and I'm like, I said, switch majors. But for anyone who's like really into this, it's got to be a passion, and it's not just about doing it for a few years, and unless you make $100,000, you want to get out of it. I can guarantee them that they're not going to make a lot of money early on, but once you start figuring out what your niche is, whether you do print or digital or video, whatever, there's plenty of room for everyone, but you have to be very specific. You can't just do what other people are doing.
Yeah.
So we live in a world of experts, not generalists. When I was coming up in the industry, being a generalist was an advantage because I could go in a lot of different directions, but it's changed. You have to be an expert.
Yeah, no, we get a lot of applicants from Mizzou specifically, SLU, and a lot of these that are journalism students, but they're like you said, they're trying to find their niche, whether it's food, hospitality, or whether it's healthcare, all these different niches, or it's social media, because a lot of great journalists are now doing really great things and for social media companies and different things like that. But no, that's great. And then for me personally, we have a partnership with Birch Tree Recovery. They really focus on mental health and all these different things. So you've been an entrepreneur for a long time. You've done all these different things. You've raised kids. You've sold companies, bought companies, or sold companies, started new companies. How do you balance your mental health when it comes to business? Is there a thing? Is it the travel? What is it that how do you stay sane? Because it seems like you have all these different things going on at one time.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it hasn't always been easy. Everyone kind of looks at me from the outside and sees, just what they want to see, that a trajectory that's been, going up for a long time. Well, it's not true. I've had a number of misses along the way, a number of financial setbacks, and you just have to be a very resilient person, whether it's mental resilience or physical or business resilience, right?
Mhm.
So being uh, being adjusted in a way where you don't give up, and you just pick up your bootstraps
Yeah.
and keep marching forward. That's what I'd say. But, mental health is a big issue. And I remember, during some tough times and wondering if my business would make it, literally waking up and crying to my wife.
Yeah.
Literally, it wasn't a joke.
Mhm.
But if you have a great partner, if you have the support around you, if you have just a handful of people who believe in you, who work for the company, that makes a lot of difference. And if you don't have those things, you got to find them right away.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're literally alone
Mhm.
doing it.
Yeah.
And, as I always tell people, it's lonely at the top.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think that I've struggled with that personally is like being an entrepreneur. My friends think it's the coolest thing in the world, but they work on huge teams and they have all these friends at work. When you are the owner or founder of the company, you have nobody to go to on top to ask for advice. You might have some mentors, like you said. The partner, my wife, is everything. I just called her before after something happened, and like she's like, "Oh, we'll talk about it when you get home." Having somebody like that. But I think that it is lonely because even when you do win, it's like, okay, well, who do I celebrate this win with? When you lose, you have to eat that loss and try not to tell your team. You want to tell your team, but you don't want to tell them everything because then they might be like, oh, the company's failing. So you have to not get too high, not get too low, and be mellow. But no, that's great advice. That's amazing. So I want to talk about my last question is the STL bucket list. Is there any things on your bucket list here in St. Louis when you have people come in town? Are there any specific restaurants? Are there any specific places, or are there things that maybe you haven't done in St. Louis that you want to do? But my idea of a bucket list, the reason why we started this whole entire brand was we just wanted to highlight the places that we loved in St. Louis, the local businesses. So we call it the bucket list, even though we're doing it, but we're basically documenting us checking off all these different things in St. Louis. And a lot of it revolves around food. We're big foodies. We like to drink great cocktails. We like to stay at nice hotels. But is there any specific things that maybe when people are coming into town and you're like, hey, I'm gonna go to a couple of these spots? Or there anything that people need to check off Craig's bucket list?
Yeah, I mean, like my favorite restaurants, Annie Gunn's is a big one for me.
Yeah, great spot.
Louis and is a great one. Um, I I think Ben Paremba is really emerging into like one of the most creative and inventive chef owners
Hmm.
around.
Yeah,
Um,
you like Eska? Eska's unbelievable.
yeah, I think Eska is great.
Hmm.
Um, and uh, so there's a lot of, I think what Gerard Kraft does is great.
Hmm.
A lot of people like that. But, I also like the hole in the wall places and, I can regularly be found at places that some people wouldn't step into,
Yeah,
like U City Grill,
yeah,
eh, right off of Delmar. It's this little Korean diner kind of thing.
yeah.
You could get like a bibimbap for like $7, and
Really.
one guy runs the whole thing. It's all WashU students. So it's like St. Louis is the kind of place where you can really make it your own,
Hmm.
right? And I encourage anyone coming here to kind of find that.
Their own
But
experience. Yeah.
between Tower Grove and the farmers market and Forest Park and,
Hmm.
you know,
Tower Grove Farmers Market is like out of this world experience now. It's so
yeah,
big. There's
so
so much
big.
going on. We used to live right on Kings Highway in Southampton area, and we would go to Tower Grove. Saturday became so busy that we would go Tuesday night and go to because we would actually shop there. But now it's like people are there eating, drinking, kids playing in the thing. I mean, it's crazy. It looks like you're in like New York City at that moment for a
Right.
little bit.
And I love seeing all the young people. I mean, Yes, we go. There's like 4 people we go to, we buy every week, but we just like seeing, like, all the younger people
Mhm.
and all these little kids running around
Yeah.
and playing on the swings and running through the sprinklers. I
Yep.
remember in New York City, which is where I grew up, doing the exact same thing, and
Mhm.
it really feels like an a really, unique urban neighborhood.
Mhm.
And so I say to my kids, if you guys ever move back here, I think you should live in that area.
Yeah.
But I live in the Central West End, and
Mhm.
which is a pretty cool part of town.
Yeah.
But the art museums, the art galleries are great here.
Mhm.
Surprisingly great
Yeah.
for the size city that it is.
Yeah.
So
So much good art going on. And you mentioned the rack and all the stuff that they're doing for public art, the mural project that just
And
happened.
music, I
Music.
mean, we're one of the best jazz cities in America, in the blues and
I think
our
people don't even
symphony.
realize how we just had two huge music festivals in September. We had
Right.
music at the intersection and Evolution right in your neighborhood, right across the street in the Forest Park. Like people just kind of, and that's a big thing that we're trying to push is like no matter where you live, I'm from St. Charles, but no matter where you are in the greater metro, St. Charles, West County, South County, North County, anywhere, it's like, how can we come together to keep coming downtown to keep supporting St. Louis? Because when St. Louis is successful, then all of our counties are great and everything like that kind of stems from that. So,
Right. People always say, well, aren't you scared to go downtown? I say, listen, I grew up in the Bronx, right? I
right.
know what a tough neighborhood looks like,
Yeah.
and it's nothing,
Yeah.
but you can't be scared. You can't,
Yeah.
like, not go to a place.
Right.
Um, and I mean, sure, you don't want to run around at 3 or 4 in the morning downtown,
Right.
but supporting what it is, and
Mhm.
I work in the city, I live in the city,
Mhm.
and I wish more people did. I mean, there's only 300,000 people who live in the city.
Yeah.
It's
And that number is sometimes declining
th-
from some of the data that I see.
right.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Yeah. No,
So.
no, it's incredible. But Craig, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to drop the link for your tickets. We're going to be at the event. And keep doing and keep supporting your slice of St. Louis that you guys are like down in your niche. So thanks a lot for coming on.
Great, thank
Yeah.
you. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate it. See you guys next week.
Today they rep St. Louis, yeah. They rep St. Louis. They rep St. Louis.